FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. Hey, don't forget, if you haven't signed up for our webinar, our live investor summit, we're dealing with gold royalty companies. We're dealing with expert Adrian Day, who wrote the book on resource investing. Just go look at the site. It's on there, financialsurvivalnetwork.com, or email me, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, speaking of building wealth, speaking of what is your next move in this crazy economy, if you are in a high-tax state, you probably thought about moving to a low-tax state, a state with no income tax, with better weather, with much more economic freedom, with less government. Especially if you're listening to this show, you've really thought about it. And you don't have to move fully. All you need to do is change your domicile, and that's basically evidenced if you spend 185 days or more in a particular state and you've switched your license, well, your bills go to that address, you could still spend upwards of 6 months in your old place, your old jurisdiction, your old state, and get the benefits of tax-free living. Well, someone who's an expert in this area, who's been dealing with you tax refugees from all over the country, is a gentleman by the name of Robert Paolini. And Robert, welcome to the show. It's really good to have you. So you're selling real estate to people here, obviously. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are coming from these high tax jurisdictions, aren't they?
Yes, they're coming from places with higher local municipal taxes on real estate property, states that include state tax, and that don't give the kind of breaks that you get for property ownership and even multiple property ownership that Florida gets above and beyond some of the coastal attributes that attract buyers.
Yeah, so they're coming from states like Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, Rhode Island, you name it. They're coming from all of these states, aren't they?
Oh, yes. All over. I would imagine almost all 50 states, especially California, even Hawaii, Seattle, New York. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they love our prices, even if they know nothing about our tax laws. Yeah.
Well, one thing, I'm sure you've heard it, though, from people that you're basically, after the latest tax change, which reduced the state and local tax deduction, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of people mention this, haven't they?
They have, but we have a lot of other trade-offs here that and increases in other things, especially with coastal property. Like if you're literally on the beach that faces the Atlantic, you now can own and restrict passerbyers all the way up until the water line. So now you can actually own your own backyard. So there's so many other little trade-offs. Plus, in some cases, our property values are more than a third under some of those other ones. And of course, who doesn't love Florida? They call it, heaven's waiting room, right? I mean, I've been
God's waiting room. I heard
retirement home.
Yeah, God's waiting room.
Yeah, exactly. And that was before I even moved here that we realized that. That was 25 years ago. Yeah. But it's just they'll buy retirement homes and rent them out, which we have Airbnbs like crazy around here until they're ready to retire and move down and live there. Yeah. It happens more often than you think.
So you're on the west coast of Florida. You seeing a massive building boom here?
We have actually, but every other state seems to be slowing down, especially in California. But for us, it only took the price of 30-year-old homes to go up above the cost of a brand new one for that to change. And we have enough surrounding geography where there is space to build.
So, there's less building restrictions in Florida. So, of course, more building. You see, it looks like Beijing in parts of South Florida, where there's just cranes
like as far as Dubai.
Yeah, as far as the eye can see. you're seeing it. Obviously, another building boom. It's funny when you think back to right after the Great Recession, you couldn't give these houses away. Houses that had been selling for $250,000 a couple months before, going off at knockdown auction, $50,000 to $70,000. I mean, it was no one wanted to touch the state back then. Isn't the transformation rather remarkable?
Yes, but time flies. What is it? Probably 13 years have gone by from start to finish. And I think that's really what the biggest factor is. It's that buyer confidence started to go. And then, of course, the momentum and value, and things are cyclical. So, yeah, but it's great.
Yeah. So what a difference a decade makes, for sure. So you could still find these waterfront properties. Are there still deals to be had out there, do you think, or is it fully priced?
There are deals, but because the financial institution that we're surrounded by is a lot more stable than in 2008, there's just so many buyers still, which is really what's keeping the market still healthy. So I guess you could look at it as a really good thing. If the inventory exceeds the buyers, that's your, economics 101, and that's the beginning of the problem. But people complain about the prices, but they won't let them drop, because once a deal shows up, there's always someone to buy it. Yeah,
I have a friend put a boatload of money into her place. I didn't think everything she did was that rational, but she put it on the market. 3 weeks later, she had a sale, and at close to asking price. And, one thing I notice in Florida, so you got two kinds of people, but primarily the market is dominated by people who just want to move into a place and not do any work, particularly if they're coming from other states. And then you got the people who like to do the flips and, basically major renos. Is that what you see up in your neck of the woods?
Oh, yeah, exactly that. Because nowadays, with the culture of people buying houses, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people have their 20% to put down and limited amount of resources to make all the custom updates they want. But it's so much easier to throw that tab on a 30-year mortgage, amortized over 300 some odd payments, to where it's like an all-in-one. It's less headache, less hassle, more convenience, and they're putting it all on the seller, and those sellers who are selling finished, move-in ready, clean, updated homes are exponentially getting more value for their home.
So there's a lesson here, isn't there?
Yes, in this market, the value should be in the home itself rather than price reductions, or otherwise we're just making more noise.
And really, so obviously interest rates going up have had an impact upon the market, but it doesn't look like it's fatal here, does it?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Egypt is on the verge, once again, becoming a world-renowned gold producer. The Golden Age is being rediscovered. For millennia, ancient Egyptian kingdoms prospered from unparalleled riches. Pharaohs built their empires and flaunted their abundant wealth that was made possible by the country's resource-rich gold deposits. Despite this rich history, modern Egypt remains one of the most underdeveloped gold mining countries in the world. Accoding Resources is at the center of the modern Egyptian mining world, diligently working both as the only public exploration company in Egypt today and as the advocate for mining reform with the Egyptian government. However, those that arrive early like Accoding will reap the best rewards. Accoding's discovery of the legendary Lost Mountain of Gold at Rodruin and its current aggressive drilling program there could potentially reap those rewards. Accoding Resources is focused on its 100% owned Abu Marawat concession in the Arabian-Nubian Shield, located 200 kilometers north of Centamin Sakari's world-class gold mine. Accoding possesses first-mover advantage in the under-followed jurisdiction of Egypt, which is currently undergoing mining reform. To stay on top of Accoding's latest drill results and news, go to AccodingResources.com. Accoding trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the ticker AAN and on the OTC under the ticker ANLBF.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
No, and those are all strategic. Interest rates don't go up by themselves. The big boys know how to make things move and change and reset. And if we can't do it organically by ourselves with the inventory, supply and demand, all it takes is an interest rate spike. Those wanting to get their money out of the stocks and get some safe interest, and then use some of the extra equity left over to kind of invest in real estate. Because interest rates go up, it's going to kick out our first-time home buyers. And right now, those are our best buyers. And then, of course, there's a lot of holdings on corporations with multiple properties that haven't unleashed their rental pools for sale, which would, overnight saturate the market.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of hedge funds and such. They're holding on to properties that they've been renting. And I heard that they were going to, number of them, maybe Blackstone, going to switch to rent to own at some point after the changes in Dodd-Frank. Any indication of that?
Yes, they do. They even have there's a company that helps facilitate that. We have one here. It's called American. Well, don't quote me because I don't know if I'm going to get the name right. But it's a company that buys these FHA homes and basically rents them out for a year, and then with a lease option to buy at the end of the year for that same buyer.
And they probably even credit some of the rental to the purchase, right? So you make the down payment requirement?
It depends on the terms, but in most cases, they just waive that. I think some of that profit is calculated into the rent and maybe allocated for whatever upfront cash is required, because that's typically what they need the most, is the cash to close.
Yeah.
But if they have the credit, we can work that as agents. As realtors, we can negotiate for seller concessions, money from the seller to go towards closing costs, updates, upgrades, buying points to buy down interest rates if that buyer is going to stay there for a long time. And because there's value in the homes, they're appraising at the price some of these sellers are listing them for, but because of the buyer scarcity and in some cases it's just not being fixed up enough to attract that buyer, they're not getting the offer they want. But that doesn't mean it wouldn't appraise. So an example like that, if somebody wanted $260 for their house, but no one's willing to pay $250, but it would appraise for $260, well, we can work out a deal. We'll offer you $260 if you give us $10,000 for the buyer to cover closing costs. It appraises at $260, everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so where there's a will, there's a lawyer and probably a realtor right behind him, right?
That's a good one.
So, Hey, what about...
there's a lawyer.
Yeah, well, estate sales in Florida are a big source of sales, right?
Oh, yes, especially with the baby boomers, my parents are baby boomers, and we're going to have a definite macroeconomical spike from those statistics for sure. Mm-hmm. There'll be a lot of detached and attached in-law suites. There'll be a lot of maybe condo sales or buys, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you need to be on the lookout for that. So market's interesting, and it's interesting. They always say, there's no one market there's no one real estate market. There are like several hundred different real estate markets. And based on what you're saying, that seems to be true, doesn't it?
Right. We're not even talking about the commercial sector or the multifamily sector, which is huge. Condominium conversions to apartments, tiny home lots converted from modular home, like mobile home parks. The 55 and up mobile home communities are kind of, they're not trending really. I mean, most of the millennials now whose parents are, going to be going to that age, they don't want that. They've invested in the idea of mom and dad are going to live with me and we'll take care of them and we'll live close to them, but we don't want nursing homes and we don't want, the 55 and up mobile home parks. Mm-hmm. So there's a ton of stuff. If big time investors look at it from a macro perspective and just follow who we call it the now client, who is most to benefit from this type of market.
Yeah. So interesting. And everybody's moving to Florida. Basically, every age group is really moving here. Obviously, boomers more so than others. Mm-hmm. But That's what I found interesting about the state is from the age standpoint, very diverse. Not all old people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Diverse in all aspects, I feel like. I mean, it's, surrounded by a few different bodies of water. And it's a melting pot, a lot of resources.
Yes.
And absolutely. And the municipalities have positioned themselves correctly to be able to, highlight those features and keep our state as strong as it's always been.
Yeah. And, every town you go to in Florida has its own character. There's no two that are really, you'd say, are exactly the same. Each one is definitely got his own little quirks.
Absolutely. It is all handed down from kind of what they had to go through to get established. And, those habits sometimes never change.
Yeah. Interesting. Hey, people want to find out more about you, connect with you on the web. Where is the best place for them to find you at, Robert?
Well, for specific real estate and property information, ezfloridahomesearch.com is good, but more so about what we teach, whether it be other sales professionals, realtors, anybody looking to get into real estate in any of the sectors, you want to find me on goodtalknation.com.
All right, goodtalknation.com. We'll have a link to your site in the show notes to this interview, as always. And any questions, comments, etc., email me, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter handle @KerryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. If you're listening on YouTube or to a podcast somewhere, then please subscribe, like, and share. Really helps me a lot when you do that. Helps get people like Robert out there in front of you. All right, we will talk to you again soon, Robert. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, sir. Have a great one. I'll talk to you soon.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.